Hey guys, how are you? So this is the last week before Christmas break. Just a heads up, everything from this week will go on the next report card. So keep that in mind that this work goes on next report card. We'll be looking at 2 lessons and a quiz this week, and that's probably going to be about it. Now, the first lesson is combining rational expressions. So we just got done with a unit. Unit 4 was about rational expressions. We actually didn't cover everything. But instead of trying to cram it all in and have the unit go one more week, I decided to just sort of cut us off where we were, have our test, and then we'll do this last topic during this little, this extra week before Christmas break. So combining rational expressions. To be honest, this is straight up Algebra 2. There's no pre-calc here at all. It's just reviewing a skill. The reason I'm doing it is because 5.2, when we get there, it's going to hopefully make that easier. So what we're going to do is just review to make the next lesson easier to understand. Combining rational expressions is like adding fractions, or subtracting fractions for that matter. It's all the same. You find a common denominator, and then you add or subtract the top numbers together, and then you reduce them when you're done. So I'm going back to elementary school. A half plus a third. We don't have common denominators here. You have to find a common denominator. Let's see, 30 would be a common denominator, right? 2 and 3 both divide into 30. But usually you try to find the lowest common denominator. So you try to think of the smallest number that 2 and 3 will both divide into, and it happens to be 6. When in doubt, you can always multiply them together. 2 times 3 is 6. So there you go. That's your common denominator. So we multiply this fraction by 3 over 3, and this one by 2 over 2, and then we get 3/6 over here and 2/6 over there. And then when you add them, 2 plus 3 is 5, so that's 5/6. It does not reduce. There's your answer. Now, hopefully you know how to do this. This is something you learned how to do when you were a kid. You might be rusty. You might be forgetting, all the intricacies because you don't deal with fractions on a daily basis, but that's the general outline of how this is done. The next one, 3/5 plus 2/15. You could do the same thing where you multiply these together to find the common denominator. 5 times 15 is what, 75? But that would not be the lowest common denominator. If you're trying to think of a number that 5 and 15 both divide into, the answer is 15 itself. 15 divides into 15 once. 5 divides into 15 3 times. So over here we need to multiply by 3 over 3. That'll make it 9/15. This one's already a 15, so you don't have to do anything. I guess you could say, oh, I'm going to multiply it by 1 over 1. That's dumb. I mean, you can. Sorry. Don't mean to call you dumb if you do that. But anyway, we got 9/15 plus 2/15, which is 11/15. There it is. And then this last one, again, you could multiply these together. 8 times 6 is 48, so you multiply this one by 6 over 6, and this one times 8 over 8. That will work eventually, but 48 is not the least common denominator. There's another number that 8 and 6 will both divide into, and that would be 24. So this 8 we can turn into 24 by multiplying by 3 over 3, and the 6 we'd multiply by 4 over 4. So that gives me 9/24 here and 4/24 there, and when you add those you get 13/24. Now, if any of those answers worked out to be reducible, I would have reduced them. They're not, so those are the answers. We're going to be doing the same thing. It's just going to be algebraic. So you're going to see x's and y's and all sorts of stuff in there. But the steps are basically the same. Find the common denominator, preferably the lowest common denominator. Other denominators will work. It'll just give you more steps. Then you add or subtract. My examples up here were all adding, but they could have been subtracting. It would have worked just the same. In general, we use the word combine to sort of encompass both adding and subtracting, and then reduce if possible. So here, number 2. What would the common denominator be? Something that 4x and 3 both divide into. You should be thinking at this point 12x. We want to turn both of these denominators into a 12x. Why? Because 3 and 4 both divide into 12, and of course x divides into x. So what would you have to multiply this? Well, this one would have to be times 4x over 4x, and this one, if I can fit it in there, would have to be times 3 over 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. Of course, 3 times 4x is 12x. I already have that written there. 2y times 4x is going to be what? 2 times 4 is 8xy. Now that we have common denominators, we can put them all over 12x, our common denominator. Add 9 plus 8xy. Well, those are not like terms. You can't actually combine them. All you can do is rewrite it like that. And that is the answer to number 2. And look, not a long assignment at all. Okay, they wrote 2yx. I like alphabetical order, so 2xy. Next one. Okay, this is going to be a bit more of a challenge. In general, when you're combining rational functions, oops, that's 2x, rational expressions rather, to find a common denominator, if you can factor a denominator, you should do it. So this denominator right here, 2x plus 10, you can factor out at 2, becomes 2 parentheses x plus 5. So now we see the components of our common denominator. Our denominator has to have a 2 in it, it has to have an x in it, and it has to have an x plus 5 in it. So my common denominator here has to have a 2, an x, and an x plus 5. A 2, an x, and x plus 5. So my first fraction has the 2x, so I have to multiply this one by x plus 5 over x plus 5. My second fraction has the 2 and the x plus 5, but it does not have the x, so I have to multiply this one by x over x. You got that? So here I get 5x plus 25, and here I get x squared minus 3x. So if I combine them all together over 2x, x plus 5, I end up with what? 5x plus 25 plus x squared minus 3x. And I guess I do have like terms right there, so I can simplify it a little bit. Also, I like to put the highest power first. So x squared, 5x minus 3x is plus 2x plus 25. And let me check number I'm going to check the answer before I work this out. Okay, I wasn't sure if I should FOIL or multiply the bottom together or not. Looks like on the answer key they didn't do that. So I'm just going to leave this as 2x, x plus 5. If this were something on a standardized test that you had to do, I wouldn't be surprised to see the denominator worked out a little bit more. So just for future reference, if you are faced with this sort of a problem, the answer could look like this, 2x squared plus 10x. So for what it's worth, that's something that could happen. But we'll just circle that. Number 6. Well, the common denominator here, you can't factor either of those, so in a sense these are the factors. So my common denominator has to have n plus 5 and n plus 4 in it. N plus 5, n plus 4. Let's see some. Okay, good. So the top one has to get multiplied by n plus 5. Oh, I'm sorry. That one already has n plus 5. I'm thinking of this wrong. This one has to be multiplied by n plus 4. And the second one needs to be multiplied by n plus 5. So here, if I distribute, I get 5n squared plus 20n. And here, oh joy, I get to FOIL. N squared plus 5n plus 3n plus 15. So if I put this all together, what do I have? I have 5n squared plus n squared, so that's going to be 6n squared. Then I have plus 20n plus 5n plus 3n, that's going to be plus 28n. And then finally bring down that plus 15. And I guess that's the answer. Now if they FOIL that together, I would say that my answer key is inconsistent. Nope, right there. So there we go. Hopefully you're following along okay. This is going to be fine for you. Number 8 is a subtraction problem. Again, we need to come up with a common denominator. Our denominator has to be divisible by 3 and 5 and u and v to the third. So it looks like 15uv to the third is going to be our common denominator, 15uv to the third. So this one I have to multiply simply by 3u over 3u, and this one I need to multiply by 5v cubed over 5v cubed. So up here I get 6u squared, and right here I get 25v to the third. So if I combine those together, 15uv to the third is the denominator. The top does not consist of any like terms, so I just write 6u squared minus 25v to the third, and that should be the answer to number 8. And is that right? Short-term memory. Yes. Looks good. All right, excellent. Number 10. So factor if you can, and this one you can factor the denominator. Factor out a 3, you get 3m minus 2. Let's make that m look more like the letter M. Okay, my common denominator. It has to be divisible by 2 and 3 and 3m minus 2. It has to have all those components in it. So it's got to have a 2, a 3, and a 3m minus 2. 2, 3, 3m minus 2. And you know what? In the next step, 2 times 3 is a 6. So I might as well just make that a 6 here in a minute. But hold on. Okay, this first fraction, it has the 2. So it needs to be multiplied by 3m minus 2. And this second fraction, it has the 3m minus 2. It needs to be multiplied by 2. So what does that give me? Well, geez, this is going to be a bit messy. I'm going to go ahead and multiply this. I'm going to have 15, 3m minus 2. And here I'm going to have 4m. So on the bottom, that's 6. Well, hold on. Let's go ahead and combine it all together. 6, 3m minus 2. If I distribute this, I get 45m minus 30 minus 4m. And then I do have like terms here. So that's 41m minus 30 over 6, 3m minus 2. And I just have a hunch that they're going to distribute that in there. 41m minus 30 all over 18m minus 12. Let's see, did I get that right? I feel bad about this one. Oh, they did not distribute it. They left it factored out. But otherwise, we're good. So here, erase those little arrows, erase that. I thought because that bottom was fairly simple to work out, they would have gone through that extra step. But nope, we're good. All right, last one. Common denominator here. There's nothing to factor, so don't worry about that. The common denominator has to have an m minus 5 as well as an m plus 5. So this one gets multiplied by m minus 5 on top and bottom. And this one gets multiplied by m plus 5 on top and bottom. So here I get m squared minus 3m minus 5m plus 15. Barely fit that in there. And then here I get 5m plus 25. Now, when I put these together, a couple of things. The bottom, that's not a big deal. And you could FOIL this together if you wanted to. It shouldn't be that tough, but not worry about it. On the top here, I do have like terms, so I can make this m squared minus 8m plus 15. Now, here's where we get into a small potential difficulty. Never came up in any other problem, but here it is an issue. I've got this minus sign here, and if I just write down minus 5m plus 25, like I carry that down here, I will be making a mistake. There is a problem there, and the problem is that this negative applies to both of those terms. So when you bring that down, it's supposed to be negative 5m minus 25. So you have to distribute or apply that minus sign to the 25 as well so that you get this. And now when you finish it up, m squared minus 8 minus 5m is going to be minus 13m. And when you get to the constants, that's positive 15 minus 25, not plus 25. 15 minus 25 is negative 10. The bottom is m minus 5, m plus 5, and that should be the final answer, and it is. Good. If you wanted to do the next step, if you really cared, and I'm sure you don't, but you know what? I'm carrying on anyway. If you FOIL this together, it's actually really easy. It's m squared minus 25. Difference of squares, conjugate pairs, really easy to FOIL. Anyway, I'll circle that. That's the answer that's in the answer key. There we go. All right, please do the odds and shout out if you have any questions. Otherwise, talk to you later.